Hello, hope you're doing well, having a great day. So I've done a few things now. I've talked about MCP, Model Context Protocol, which is colloquially becoming known as the RESTful API of AI. So we did some things in a previous demo with Claude Desktop where we created a set of tooling that allowed us to connect to a SQL Server database and also allowed Claude Desktop to run queries onto that database so that we could functionally interact with it via the Claude Desktop. So what I've done now is I've added some more tools to allow to do the same with PostgreSQL. So I've created some new tooling to do that. So I'll show you what you can do with these kind of tools when they have context of things that they can talk to in terms of using inference to be able to basically glue them together. Then what we'll do post that is I'll demonstrate to you once it's behind an MCP server, and that's available in other tooling like Claude Code, for example. And the reason it's handy potentially to have it in Claude Code is that might be useful to you if you're trying to do functional work to write code. And we'll do some stuff with Claude Code in the future. But first of all, I'll just show you how we've augmented MCP to allow it to connect to multiple different types of data stores. And going forwards, we'll make this even more sophisticated. So first of all, let's look what we've got. So we've got a Postgres database here. So it's the Northwind Classic database that's commonly used to play around and learn databases. So that's installed on a Postgres instance. What we've gone and done then is we've simulated what might happen in a microservice, where a microservice will typically have its own database. So we've created a new database for delivering information that is related to orders in the Northwind database. So they're in two completely separate databases in two completely separate technologies. So first of all, let's go into Claude Desktop and let's see what we can do. So first of all, let's see if you can see that our tools are installed. So we'll ask it to show us a list of installed MCP database related tools. There are a whole set of tools we've got installed here, but we're just interested in ones related to databases. So you can go here and you can see that it's pulled back the original tooling, which was SQL Server tools, which allowed it to connect and introspect the schema. So it did a lot more than just connect to the database. It actually pre-populated Claude with enough information to be able to operate on that data with no other prompting to give it full context of what that data is. So as soon as you connect, it's ready to go. There's a bit more going on in the background while it's doing that. You don't need to see it because it's doing it for you to save you having to give it context at what that database is. So we've now added another version here for PostgreSQL, so it can do the similar kind of functionality. And we'll do a thing where we'll just connect to those and we'll see if Claude can use that set of tooling to be able to do things. So what we'll do going forwards actually is we'll create an Uber version of this tool, which basically is a single database tool that can connect to all the data stores. So behind a single connect mechanism, a single execute mechanism, it will go away and figure out whether the database is SQL Server, PostgreSQL, is it NoSQL, is it Elasticsearch, and it will go away and do all the shenanigans for if we've asked it to do something, we've provided it with the details, it will be able to go away and connect. And we can also have potentially a store of repositories of data stores if we commonly connect to save us having to do that manually each time, which might be something you want to do in a set of work when you're using common databases for common things. So first of all, what I'll do is I'll copy the Postgres connection string onto the clipboard and I'll just get it to connect. So I'll get it to do that. So it should now go away, look at the tools it's got, figure out it's got a Postgres tool, figure out it's got a connect capability. It knows the kind of information it gets back, which will tell it information about the topology of the database. And as you can see, it's now pulled back the topology of the database. So if you look at those tables, you're familiar with Northwind, that's the Northwind schema. So it's connected to the Postgres database. So let's go away, let me go away and copy the connection string for the SQL Server. And then we'll do a similar thing with SQL Server. So let's do that now. So now it's going away and it's going to figure out that I've got SQL Server tooling, I'm going to connect to the database. And then I'm going to go away and check and see that I can connect to that database and do things. And it's telling us what it knows about the data store, which is basically a delivery table with information which is related to the Northwind database. So now we've done that, let's try and get it to do something functional on those two separate entities. So let's go away and ask it a question. So we'll just say, tell me what we know about order 10252. So based on the context of the conversation and the tooling it's got available, Claude should be able to figure out a strategy to be able to do things to glue this information together. So it knows it's got a Postgres tool. It's now gone away and run a query to pull back the orders for that particular order ID. and it's thinking and it's deciding what it's going to do next. So it's basically running multiple queries here. So I suspect it's pulling back the order details and probably the customer information. And in fact, we can expand those nodes if we want to see what it's doing. So it's pulling back the order details, customers, and employees. Now it's also recognized that it's got a data store which has delivery information that's related to the order IDs. So it's gone away and queried that for the same order, and then it's built us basically a response that contains all the information related to that particular order. Now let's go into Claude Code. So give me a second. So we've now got Claude Code. So the beauty about MCP is that once you've got that tooling available, it's available to anything that supports MCP. So as long as you then configure the tooling to be able to know where the MCP tooling resides and how to execute it, it can go away and use it. So if we ask, and I've already gone and done that, so let's go away and ask Claude Code to see if it's got a list of installed MCP database tools. So what it's done, it's gone away and it's actually gone and functionally tickled something. You can see it's got an echo tool in there, so it's also going to tickle it to check that they are actually able to make calls. Now you can see it's got the 6 tools we've got there. And as I alluded to, going forwards, I'm going to create a much simplified Uber version of this tooling, where not only can it connect to 2 database technologies, it can connect to multiple database technologies, and it can also manage multiple connection strings to multiple databases at the same time. In terms of Claude Code, this might be quite useful. We'll probably do a demonstration a little bit later where we'll go away and we'll get it to point to potentially the delivery database and go away and pretty much on its own under our guidance, go away and write an API to be able to do things with it. And then we'll take this a little bit further forward and I'll go away and show you how you can write automation tests using Claude Code for this particular set of code that it will write in response to that data store being there. Taking that a little bit further, we'll go away and probably show you how you can run basically UI automation tests via Claude Code to be able to do things, to be able to write the automation tests, to be able to test the data store. So for this kind of sort of use case, you could probably cover all those scenarios pretty quickly. Claude Code is probably the most impressive CLI that's available at the moment. And now we've got the max pricing models. It's become a bit more cost effective to leverage it a little bit more to really push what it can do. But what we're doing today is we're talking about MCP. So first of all, let me go away and get the connection string for Postgres and see it can actually talk to Postgres. So I'll copy that onto the clipboard and then we'll go and ask it to connect to the Postgres database. So we've done that. So it's running the tool to connect to the database and we'll see what it comes back with. So again, you can see that Claude Code is now connected to that database as well. Now, because Claude Code is connected to that database, I can start asking it questions about doing things related to that code. So I could get it to potentially write data. So actually, let's do the same thing that we did with Claude Desktop. And we could be working on multiple microservices at the same time. So I'll copy the SQL Server connection to clipboard. We'll get it to connect to the SQL Server database. And actually, while we're in Claude Code, we'll just get it to do the same kind of thing that we just did now. So once it's got scope of these databases, then of course we can ask it to, it's asking me if I want to allow it to run. So we'll allow it to run. It's going away, connects to the database. It's now figured out, it's got a delivery table and what the schema of that database looks like. It hasn't figured out the schema, the tooling has done that for it. So it's gone back and told it, basically you can think it's written a dynamic prompt for it in real time to be able to describe the schema to it. So you don't have to do that yourself. So now what we can do is we can do a similar thing that we've done before. So we can now go away and ask it questions about the data store. We might be writing code, right? We're using Claude Code. But during the process of writing code, we might be able to want to be able to do things, to be able to check things in databases as we're running things, as we're doing various bits and bobs. So let's go and ask it the same question. So we've asked it to tell us what it knows about order 10252. So it's going away and doing things. So we'll let it go away and do its stuff. It's now deciding it wants to run some queries, which it's doing. Now it wants permission to run this tooling. You can actually define permissions using matches to define regexes to allow things to commonly run things to always run. We haven't done that for this particular instance. It's It's asked for permission, we've given it permission. So here you see what it's done. It's gone away and not only connected to the Postgres database, it's also connected to the SQL Server database, and it's merged the data together to give us the full information about that particular order. So we could say, give me the full customer details. So we'll let it go away and do that. So we're not telling it where to go. It's clever enough to figure out, based on what it's got, where to go. It's figured out that they are in the Postgres database, and it's now going to create a query to do it. And there you go. It's pulled back all the information about that particular customer. So what we'll probably do going forward a little bit is I'll show you the power of Claude Code we'll create an API for this, a full CRUD API, in a few minutes that will go away and create an API that will allow us to do things on this. We'll then also show you some different sets of MCP tooling for doing things like automation tests. So I'll show you how you can actually get it to go away and actually control the API itself to test the API beyond what it will write in terms of unit tests, which will get it to write, but in terms of being able to functionally exercise it. And it may not be using that in the sense of writing an API automation test. It may be just as going away of tickling the API, and one of the things you can do is you can get it to go away and check for issues with the API in real time. So you can go away and get it to tickle that API for you, and out of that you can go away and get it to go away and write a set of API automation tests for you, and then go away and give you the code that is the automation test. Not only give you the code that is the automation test, but to put that code in an automation solution that you may already have as part of this project, or if it's a new project, you may be creating it. So again, I just thought I'd give you a little bit of flavor what you can do with MCP, and we're going to be using some of the other MCPs that are out there. Here I've just shown you, if it's not available, you can write your own. There actually is a PostgreSQL MCP server. My existing CLI tooling, which I wrote about a year ago, has its own data stores, which has a lot more functionality than we're showing here, which I'll gradually move over into MCP so I can expose it to other AIs. So initially I wrote one for SQL Server because there wasn't a good one about that was available to do that. So it's a good demonstration there. It was not recreate something that already exists, but create a SQL Server one. What I've now done is I've moved my Postgres version behind the same facade so that we can consume that. And over time, what we'll do is we'll get away that sort of, they're all based on the same interfaces, but we'll completely get away from the granularity of having to call different MCP tools by having basically a data store MCP tool that will go away and figure out what the data store is. As long as we tell it how to connect, or it has a repository of information about how to connect, it will go away and figure out which tool behind the tool, so there's a set of tooling behind the tool to go away and run that allows it to connect to the database, query the schema, query the data, build up a prompt that is basically, as soon as it comes back, it's ready to go and do functional work on that data store. So we'll create an Uber data store that will allow us to do that. But what I also want to show you is that there are a lot of great toolings out there for doing things that are already ready outside the box that you can use with things like Claude Desktop and Claude MCP. So really, that's all I was going to show you today. We'll go away and get Claude Code to do some interesting things with coding going forward. So using our tooling. So writing code is one thing, but being able to write code with tooling that gives essentially the CLI more capabilities that it can use its inference to be able to use means the more of these capabilities you've got, the more clever the tooling can be about how it decides what it's going to do more work for you, or better work for you, or better quality work for you. And I'm going to show you some amazing things that you can do with hooks, some completely amazing things that you can do with hooks. And I'm also going to show you some amazing things where we can use AI to control Claude itself, or do things remotely. So we can go away and basically have a dashboard of Claude's going away doing tasks that are running, that we may be doing other things, and we come back to the dashboard and we can be able to interact with the Claudes about what they're doing, where they're at. Is it doing a good job? Has it done a good job? And sort of pushing this technology as far as we can go. And the CLIs now are getting to the point where I thought they were going to get, which is one of the reasons I started exploring CLIs probably 2 years ago, and then came up with my own extensibility, which was basically a JSON format for adding toolings, which isn't MCP, but now MCP is available. It's very easy for me to pivot that to something that is MCP. So I can very quickly take all those capabilities, stick them behind MCP servers, and allow them to do things for me. So that's really all I've got for you today. So have a great rest of your day. Look after yourself, and bye-bye for now.